Each year, thousands of criminal cases are heard in courts around Australia. Here, some of the most serious crimes are heard before judge and jury. This is where justice is done. Now, for the first time, cameras have been allowed to witness a major criminal trial.
He wasn't bleeding.
Have you ever held a firearm? How does it prejudice his defence?
No, Your Honour, see, that's the problem. Silence, all stand.
Previously, Jason Courtney, 33, a sheet metal worker from Western Sydney, stands accused of putting a gun to Paul Magyar's head and threatening to kill him.
He had the gun at my head. He said to me, he goes, I know how to use this.
Key witness Craig Gladstone supported the accusation.
I heard, I'll shoot you.
The jury has heard evidence from witnesses supporting the prosecution case.
And he hit me from behind.
Jason's defence is that he wasn't the aggressor, but the victim of a robbery.
Felt a hand grab me around my neck.
During 9 days of evidence, the defence team have attempted to discredit Crown witnesses.
You then pistol whipped him. You struck him with that pistol across the face, didn't you?
Then Jason Courtney took the stand to tell his side of the story.
When you were at Singleton, did you at any time have a gun on your person?
No.
Did you own a gun at that time?
No.
Jason's story was challenged by Crown prosecutor Tim McIntosh.
It's an old firearm. Would you agree with what it appears to be?
I don't know anything about firearms, so
You're telling the truth?
yes.
Evidence suggesting Jason was familiar with firearms was ruled inadmissible. Now these 12 men and women must decide Jason's fate. If found guilty on 3 firearm offences, he faces 14 years behind bars.
I'd be lying if I say I wasn't concerned.
Anyone who is charged with a criminal offence is under the law presumed to be innocent of that offence at all times, unless and until the prosecution has proved its case beyond reasonable doubt to the satisfaction of the jury.
Today, it's the Crown's last chance to convince the jury Jason Courtney is guilty.
The Crown has to prove its case to a very high standard, beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a reason for the fact that the stakes are high and that the tensions and pressures are there in any trial. Effectively, the Crown's saying, look, Mr. Courtney possessed this particular unique brand pistol on this particular occasion. He had it in his possession. The second of the 3 charges, that the accused did use an offensive weapon in the sense of holding it out, brandishing it, pointing it to Mr. Magyar's head.
He had the gun at my head.
To intimidate Mr. Magyar, causing him to fear physical harm. Well, in fact, if you're satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that that did occur, you now have no doubt that the intention that accompanied the holding out of the firearm in that manner can only have been done in circumstances where the intention was to scare the daylights out of Mr. Magyar. The third and the last of the charges relates to the accused discharging a firearm in the course of his scuffle or struggle. The Crown will be relying on the presence of a discharge cartridge in the pistol, as observed by Constable McSpadden, the man who disarmed the firearm. The Crown has also got to prove to you, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the accused's act was a conscious and a voluntary one. It's not just that a gun went off, it's the accused deliberately pulled the trigger of the gun.
Over 3 hours, the prosecutor reiterates the key arguments of the Crown's case.
The difficult task is one where, taking into account all the evidence, you can and is available to you to be brought in as guilty verdicts.
Thank you, Mr. Crown. Yes, Mr. Lovac.
After 11 days of evidence, it's now the last chance for the defence to create doubt in the mind of the jury.
I think after cross-examination, the final closing speech is probably the most important part of the trial for the defence, because in the closing speech, you have to bring all the evidence together for the jury so that they can understand it. And you have to highlight to the jury, again, in your closing speech, all the holes that you've poked in the prosecution case. This case, ladies and gentlemen, which the prosecution has launched, is like a ship. From the waterline up, it looks impressive, but I will take you, ladies and gentlemen, on a guided tour below the decks of this impressive ship, below the waterline of this prosecution case, and I will show you how this ship, this prosecution case, cannot possibly remain afloat. First of all, he told you that the location of the DNA, that is the blood on the gun, is consistent with the accused holding the pistol. Now, there's only one problem with that argument, ladies and gentlemen, because when the accused was holding the gun at Magyar's head, he wasn't bleeding. He hadn't been hit yet. There was no blood flowing. The only way the blood could have got on that gun was when he was pistol whipped. So that argument's completely absurd. The Crown also relies on the fact that a spent cartridge was found by McSpadden in that weapon when it was seized. Well, so what? That doesn't prove that that cartridge went off in the toilet. Could have discharged a day earlier, could have discharged a week earlier. We just don't know. If there was, in fact, a discharge in that toilet, as Magyar and Gladstone claim, where's the bullet? Crown also relies on the conduct of Mr. Magyar and Gladstone after the incident. He says it was inconsistent with robbers and violent assailants. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is totally inconsistent for innocent men to behave in the way Magyar and Gladstone behaved. Magyar flees from the hotel, abandons the woman he loves, his wife, to her fate, knowing she could be killed if his version is true. And what does Gladstone do? He hides the gun. Ladies and gentlemen, is that consistent with innocent men? Absolutely not. So, ladies and gentlemen, that argument just doesn't hold water.
Halfway through his barrister's closing address, Jason Courtney arrives at court with what appears to be a black eye. It's a major problem for the defence.
We don't normally do makeup.
Before the jury arrives, the defence makes a request of the judge.
There's one other matter, Your Honour. When the client came in this morning, I noticed that his left eye appears to be a black eye. He instructs me that he's had some problem with his eye overnight, which is not the result of any fisticuffs overnight. And I wonder if you told the jury that they mustn't speculate about the condition of his eye. He instructs me that it's a sty or an infection, and there may be a danger that the jury will see his black eye and think he's been involved in some sort of punch-up overnight. Thank you, Your Honour.
Yes, well, I'll just say to the jury that
It's a swollen eye.
that the accused has a swollen eye from some eye infection.
Yes,
I'm
thank you.
told. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Levac informs me that Mr. Courtney overnight has developed some eye infection, and that's why his eye is swollen this morning. That's the only reason.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Thank you for that, Your Honour. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I want to bring you to the defence case. The accused version of events is not only believable and feasible, but it is supported by evidence.
After 8 hours, Peter Larvac comes to the end of his closing address.
You don't have to sit in that jury room for days agonising over where the truth lies. And in this case, you may never know where the truth lies because of all the different versions, all the inconsistencies, all the discrepancies. You may never know where the truth lies, but that's okay. You've done your job. And you must give him the benefit of that doubt. And I am confident that you will find the only verdict possible in this case, not guilty.
It's been a tough day for the defence. Peter Larvac worries about the jury's reaction to Jason's black eye.
Tell you what worried me, remember the juror over on the left said, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound real good for us if this guy has already taken that view about his black eye, which is caused by an infection.
Next morning, Jahan Gabriel comes to a dramatic decision.
Remember how Peter said he heard the juror said, yeah, right, and I agonised over it and looked up all of the authorities and just realised that I'm going to have to ask for a discharge. So I'm just waiting for Peter and Jason to come this morning so I can give him the appropriate advice as to what I think the proper course is. It's the reaction also to what was said that's concerning as well, because everybody else laughed.
Jahan.
There you are. Okay. Just have a seat, please. Remember how yesterday you pointed out what the juror said?
About Jason with the black eye, and he said, yeah, right. Yeah, that
I
concerned
think we'll
me.
have to ask for a discharge.
Yeah, I think so too.
Do you want to talk to Jason about
Yeah,
it?
we'll
have to get his
get
written
instructions on that, and you can make that application. Jason, come here, mate.
The defence team now wants to dismiss the jury and abort the trial. If successful, it will be the second time Jason's trial has been aborted.
Dismissal.
We'd have to listen to what was
We've got
said.
good points.
It was enough to cause me concern. So I wouldn't make the application
you heard
without
the-
having concerns
The
about
lady
what was
next to
said.
him slapped him. The blonde lady, she slapped him and said, you said you weren't going to say anything.
Hopefully the tapes will actually reveal what he said.
Jahan Gabriel will have to argue her case in front of the judge before the jury comes in.
Your Honour, early in the evening last night, I was informed of a comment that one of the jurors made yesterday in response to what Your Honour told the jury about our client's eye. And it wasn't said in levity, Your Honour, as my instructions are, that it was, yeah, right.
Yes, that's what I heard, yes.
And then what was said after that by the female next to him was, you said you weren't going to say anything out loud. Now, those two comments, Your Honour, taken together in the circumstances, give rise to a reasonable apprehension of bias in my submission.
How is that comment? How can that comment be interpreted in any way as expressing a view about the merits of the Crown case or the merits of the defence case? It was a comment related to something completely separate from the issues in this trial. That was as to how the accused managed to get a black eye the night before. That has nothing to do with this trial.
If it were a trial that related to issues that don't relate to assaults or fights or violence or punch-ups, then the comment could not be...
Miss Gabrielle, you are forgetting that your client admits that he went up to Mr. Clydesdale and punched him.
No, Your Honour, see, that's the problem. It was only one event earlier on in that day. That is just an event that happened on that day. What happened yesterday is a signal that this jury has, and then particularly that juror, has formed a view that he has a bad character generally.
Well,
and in line...
No, what it expresses is that the view... well, I don't know. It may have been completely said in jest. at worst, that they weren't satisfied as the explanation as to how his eye was swollen and bruised.
But the problem with that, Your Honour, is in the context of this
Yeah,
trial,
right. Well, I understand
that's
the submission,
important.
yes.
That is important.
Well, let's assume that what you say was said. What application are you making?
I would be making an application for the discharge of the jury, Your Honour.
Right.
Judge Marion refuses the defence application, but gives directions regarding Jason's black eye.
Now, yesterday morning, you'll remember that when you came in yesterday morning, I passed on to you what Mr. Larvac had informed me about the state of Mr. Courtney's eye, and that statement that I made caused some reaction in the jury. Now, can I say this, that whatever prompted that reaction, that related to a matter which is completely separate from any issue in this trial. Whatever view you may have formed about what I told you as to what occurred to Mr. Courtney's eye, that view is not relevant to your determination of the issues in the trial.
Yes, I'm upset that he didn't discharge the jury to an extent, or disappointed, but if I didn't raise it, then he wouldn't have given the direction that he did. So ultimately, the fact that I did raise it caused it to be addressed in some way or another. So in that respect, I'm happy.
The jury has now heard 13 days of evidence. Judge Marion gives final directions to the men and women who will decide Jason Courtney's fate.
Your function in this trial is a much more responsible one than mine, and it has properly been described as a grave and important public duty. I explained to them our respective roles, their role and my role, and I explained very clearly to them that I have nothing to do with the role they play in determining the facts in the case and determining the ultimate issue as to whether the accused is guilty or not guilty. Under our system of law, the accused is presumed at all times to be innocent of each of these crimes unless and until he is proved guilty beyond reasonable doubt. At this time, and until I give you any further direction, your verdict with respect to each count, whether it be guilty or not guilty, must be unanimous. That is, it must be the verdict of all 12 of you. So I now ask you to retire to the jury room to consider your verdicts.
The jury must determine Jason's guilt or innocence on each of the 3 counts: possessing, using to intimidate, and discharging an unlicensed firearm. If found guilty, he could face 14 years jail.
Just got to wait and see what happens now. I'm confident and nervous at the same time.
I've walked away from many cases where there have been convictions and acquittals, and very rarely have I ever, in my own mind, known where the truth really lies. And I think the jury must feel the same way, and probably the prosecutor. I think the only people who really ever know where the truth lies are the people who are there, the accused and the alleged victims.
So what, come 4 o'clock, if they haven't had a verdict?
If we haven't got a verdict, probably by 5 or a little
You've got to
later,
wait even after
he'll bring them
4
back
hours.
and send them home. We'll come back on Monday.
Okay, so that doesn't go like to court hours, like a 4 o'clock day.
This is probably the hardest part of the trial, waiting for the jury to come back, because you don't know what they're thinking, you don't know which way they're going to go, you can't read them, and you've got no way of knowing how long they're going to be out before they reach a verdict. They could be back in the next 2 hours, or they could be out for 3 or 4 days. You just don't know.
It's just free fall now. So for lawyers who are sort of often control freaks, this is an uncomfortable period because it's something well out of your control. And no, you just wait now.
Well, I'm just glad it's over, and I'm glad it's now in the jury's hands. They've heard it. Whatever they come back with, I'll be satisfied with. So it's just a waiting game now.
What's the longest you've had to wait for a verdict? 4 hours? 3 or 4 hours?
If they come back in 20 minutes, it's pretty bad for us. If they come back quickly, I think it means there's going to be a conviction. So the longer they're out, the better it is for the defence, usually.
Question from the jury?
A few hours after retiring, the judge receives a message from the jury.
Could be one of three things: that they can't make up their mind, or they want to go home and come back on Monday, or alternatively they have a question about the evidence and want some assistance. So it could be one of those three things. But it's not a verdict at this stage. Yep.
Gut-wrenching.
It sure was. When the phone call came, I thought, no, time to go and find out, face the music. But then he said, no, it's only a question.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I've received your note. At this stage, we feel we will need more time to reach our decision. Can we come back Monday? Well, there's no problem about that. I can send you home for the weekend. We don't, not in every trial these days do we lock juries up.
No, how you going, Mum? The jury's out for the weekend. They have to come back on Monday. So, yeah, so, it's not too bad. It's good that they're thinking, so the more they think about it, the better it is, apparently. So they tell me. So, yeah, that's a good sign. Okay, I'll talk to you. See you, Mum. Love you too. Bye-bye. Mum's disappointed that she's not here because she wants to come, but I just told her again that I don't want her to come. She just wants to come for support, and I don't want her to, so she gets a little bit upset about that. So I find it easier if I'm just there on my own and doing my own thing. If I've got friends and family in there, I'll be looking at them and seeing how they're feeling, and that could portray to the jury take away how I'm feeling.
Monday morning, and any prospect of a verdict from the jury has suddenly been put on hold.
One of the jurors, I think, is sick, which means you'll have to bring the remaining jury in this morning, discharge them for today, come back and start again tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
So there's not much we can do about
is
that,
it?
no, mate.
If the juror's really, really sick, then I guess we can reduce down to 11, but I don't know. Do you know how sick the juror is?
Morning, Tim. No. Susan's, I think, chasing it up as we speak.
Well,
We don't know yet.
If the juror is really sick,
Then we'll just go down to 11.
we might give him a day to find out what's happening. He may be back tomorrow. If he's not back tomorrow and he's really sick, we'll just discharge him and continue with the remaining 11.
Yep.
Next day, the sick juror returns, and the jury continues its deliberations.
But I'm concerned about a compromise verdict because...
I think you're definitely right about 2 camps, so you can see that all the way through the whole trial.
There are 2 camps.
Yeah.
It's pretty apparent there are 2 camps.
The court reconvenes after the judge receives another note. The note reveals serious tensions in the jury room.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've received your note. We are split in our views. We have a situation where jurors are becoming personal at one another. Tension is building, and comments have of a racial nature where jurors have become upset. Now, members of the jury, I can say from my experience that tension in the jury room is not an uncommon phenomenon. But experience has certainly shown that often juries are able to agree in the end if they consider the evidence in the way that I've suggested, that is, that you calmly and objectively consider all the evidence in the case, and most importantly, to calmly and objectively listen to the opinion that might be expressed by any one of you about the evidence. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope what I've said is of some assistance to you and to retire back to the jury room and continue with your deliberations. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
What happened inside has confirmed my belief that we've definitely got this jury has split into 2 camps. They're at each other's throats, they're fighting, they're arguing, personal comments are being made, racist comments are being made. This jury is definitely split.
We've analysed it and I can't pick it. I think there's 2 camps, but I've got no idea. I was just watching the jury, body language, when the juror came back in and she was emotional. you know, who she was with and who was supporting her and who wasn't, things like that. Not legal schools.
The jury then requests a transcript of Jason's evidence.
The fact that they have now asked for the transcript of Jason's evidence is very encouraging. It means now that they're going to be able to compare Jason's evidence, which is virtually unchallenged by cross-examination. They'll be able to compare that to the evidence of the 3-star witnesses.
That's pretty good, actually. So we just have to make sure that there's nothing that they, you know, are not supposed to see, like argument, legal argument, or just any changes to any words that might not have been transcribed properly.
I think it's the blood the jury are interested in.
Blood?
In the accused account. Blood and injury. That's my gut feeling, just as I'm reading it.
What, that's the sticking point?
Well, I'm just guessing.
It's getting a bit tense, isn't it?
Tensions within the jury are a good sign for the defence.
So I've got a good feeling that we've got 4 on our side and 8 against, or somewhere along that line.
This is my strong feeling. I'm pretty convinced the blonde is on our side, the good-looking young blonde. She's definitely on side. I think the Asian guy is on side. I think the Maori woman is on side who was crying, and the elderly white-haired lady who was comforting her today, she's also on side. So I think we've definitely got 4 on our side.
We're in limbo on Friday afternoon, we're in limbo yesterday, and we're in limbo today.
It's now Wednesday. The jury has been out 2.5 days. There are 2 more notes from the jury.
The longer they're out, the closer we're getting to a deadlock. And I think we're heading for a hung jury situation where they're going to come back and say they're hopelessly deadlocked. And if we get a hung jury, as far as I'm concerned, that's a win for us. That's as good as an acquittal.
Yeah, Mum's stressing. Dad's taking it sort of pretty easy, but the more I tell them the same thing, that the longer the better, the more they sort of relax as well. But they'll be a lot happier when it's all finished, that's for sure. But other than that, not much sleeping. I've been lucky to get 4 to 5 hours sleep in the last couple of nights, actually. But I haven't been able to work since I got out of jail because of legal aid. If I went to work, I'd lose my legal aid grant.
The jury has a surprising request.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I received your 2 notes. The first note reading, is it possible to have a supervised period with the pistol? If possible, we would prefer to have it in the jury room. I think it would be preferable if we kept the magazine and gave you the pistol for obvious occupational health and safety reasons. I don't think there's anything else that's concerning me, members of the jury, as to why I'm a little bit reluctant to send the pistol into the jury room, as you can understand. Do you require the magazine? No. All right. So you're happy just to have the pistol, and we confirm that there's no live ammunition in the barrel or the bridge of the pistol. Now, the next question reads, can we please have the directions of the law explained to us again, especially onus of proof beyond reasonable doubt? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the only onus that applies in this case is the onus that is on the Crown to prove the guilt of the accused and to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. The expression beyond reasonable doubt is an expression I'm sure every one of you has heard before you came to this trial. And it is an ancient concept under the criminal law. It has been deeply ingrained in our criminal justice system in this country for hundreds of years. So deeply ingrained that the law says that juries do not need explanation of the concept of beyond reasonable doubt, other than the explanation that those 3 words bear their ordinary, everyday meaning, beyond reasonable doubt.
I felt good with what the judge said. It made sense, and it seemed to prove to them what they had been waiting for, like they've been arguing and things like that. Maybe that's what they've been arguing about, the reasonable doubt thing.
My feeling is that they want to see the gun in order to determine for themselves how our client's blood got on there via the pistol whipping. And I think they're going to demonstrate for themselves with the hand extended that blood couldn't have got on there if what Will and Magyar described was true. The only way the blood could have got on there was through the pistol whipping.
I couldn't say it's a pro-Crown or a pro-accused type of question. It's a reasonable question because it's part of the jury sifting through all the material, and that includes not just transcript of witnesses' evidence, but hard evidence, the physical object, the smoking gun.
Thursday lunchtime. The judge receives another note.
This is the most inquisitive jury I've ever seen.
The jury is stalled. They can only come to a unanimous agreement on one of the 3 counts.
Well, members of the jury, I've made some inquiries of your foreperson, and I'm now satisfied that the period of time under the law has elapsed that's relevant to the taking of what is called a majority verdict. And I'm also satisfied that with respect to the 2 counts that you are unable to reach a unanimous verdict, that it is unlikely that you will reach a unanimous verdict. I direct you that should you continue to be unable to reach a unanimous verdict, you may return, and I must accept, a verdict of 11 of you as the verdict of the jury in this case with respect to these 2 counts that you cannot agree unanimously upon.
I think that this suggests that that majority verdict direction is probably not going to change anything in terms of the deadlock.
So I think we're almost home. Just another 24 hours to sweat it out.
It's now a week since the jury began considering its verdict.
Today's, I think, is going to be the big day. Well, I'm hoping so. Peter's feelings were that about 11 o'clock or so, they'll probably come back with another note for the judge, saying that there's still locked horns and can't come to a verdict. And a hung jury will be great. That'll be the end of it for the day, and hopefully forever.
Finally, the jury has reached a decision. If found guilty on any of the 3 counts, Jason may be escorted to the cells below and could face the prospect of years in jail.
Ladies and gentlemen, your note reads, we have further discussed and are still unanimous on 1 count and undecided on 2 counts. The spread is more than 11-1, and I feel it is highly unlikely we can reach that figure or a unanimous decision on the 2 counts, as we have not changed for some time now, 3+ days of deliberating. Thank you, jury foreperson. Well, Mr. Foreperson, can I just ask you firstly, what is the count 1, count 2 or count 3 that you have reached a verdict, either a unanimous or a majority verdict? Which count is that?
Count 3.
Thank you.
The jury has decided unanimously on whether or not Jason illegally discharged a gun.
Well, what I propose to do then is to take the verdict from the jury in relation to count 3 and to discharge the jury from delivering verdicts on counts 1 and 2. Yes, all right, I'll ask my associate to take your verdict, members of the jury, in relation to count 3 on the indictment.
Would the jury representative please stand? Have you agreed upon your verdicts on count 3?
Yes.
With respect to count 3 of the indictment, that the accused, Jason Edwin Courtney, on the 19th of May 2006 at Singleton, in the state of New South Wales, did fire a firearm, namely a unique .25 caliber semi-automatic pistol, with disregard for the safety of other persons. How say you, is the accused guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Yes, sir, take a seat, please. Well, I formally discharge the jury with respect to delivering verdicts on counts 1 and 2 on the indictment. And I formally, in relation to count 3 on the indictment, discharge the accused. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the next thing I must do is to formally discharge you, the jury, but I do not want you to leave the court today with any sense of failure. Really, in relation to those 2 counts on the indictment, you have made a decision. The decision is that you cannot unanimously or by majority conclude that the Crown has proved its case beyond reasonable doubt. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're now free to go. Thank you for all the hard work you've put into this case, and I now formally discharge you. Yes, you can step out of the dock, Mr. Courtney. Well, I thank counsel for their assistance in this trial.
Thank you.
I'll adjourn.
Please stand.
Talk again.
Very relieved, very happy.
But it's not over for Jason. The Crown may yet decide to retry him a 3rd time on the 2 undecided charges.
In one sense, it's a victory, a partial victory for the accused, because he doesn't have to face any trial on count 3, but the charges which remain are significant and carry severe penalties if convicted at trial. So he's gained something, and we've pulled up stumps in a neutral way in respect to the other 2 charges.
If they want to go to trial for a 3rd time, my attitude is bring it on. We blew them out of the water the first 2 times, and we'll do it again if we have to on the 3rd trial.
9 weeks later, the Crown has resolved to retry Jason on the 2 undecided charges: possession of an unlicensed firearm and using it with intent to intimidate. But they have offered to drop the intimidation charge if Jason pleads guilty to possession of a gun.
So it's a compromise settlement for everybody. They get a conviction at least for something, even though it's the least serious charge of all 3, and Jason's got a very good chance of retaining his freedom.
After insisting during both trials that he had nothing to do with the gun, Jason is asked again how he pleads.
Jason Edward Courtney, you stand indicted by that name for that on 19 May 2006 at Singleton in the state of New South Wales did possess a prohibited pistol, namely a unique brand .25 caliber semi-automatic pistol without being authorised to do so by licence or permit. How do you plead? Are you guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
His father is the manager of a finance company. His mother is a retired nurse. He's got a brother aged 30 and a sister aged 27. He instructs that he gets on extremely well with his parents and his siblings, and I understand they are all in court today to lend their support. And I think you can see them down the back of the courtroom, Your Honour. By his plea of guilty, he has demonstrated genuine remorse and contrition. He saved the taxpayers the expense of a 3rd trial and the court's valuable time. I would submit to you, Your Honour, that the accused has been punished enough, not only by the delay and the anxiety and stress he suffered, but also by way of...
Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Larvick, I just keep returning to this issue about delay and the utilitarian value of the plea of guilty. I distinctly remember sitting in court with a jury and you challenging for days, and me having to hear evidence on a voir dire and deliver a lengthy judgment about whether that pistol was the pistol that was in the hand of the accused. Now, he sat there and watched us all going through the motions on that. What he could have done was said, look, yes, I did have that gun.
Certainly, Your Honour. And I concede, Your Honour, that a lot of that delay was his own fault. But notwithstanding that, the delay has still taken its toll of him. It's my final submission, Your Honour, that 11 months he's already served, I submit, in all the circumstances of this case, is sufficient punishment already.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honour.
Where does the Crown say this offence lies in the range of objective seriousness?
Your Honour,
for this kind of offence?
A little under the mid-range, my respectful submission. I don't put it towards the lower end. The possession was criminal. The possession was of a firearm that was in working order and loaded. So I considered that issue for quite some time, and that's my respectful submission.
Yes, Mr. Lovac.
What I would like to do, Your Honour, is ask the accused to get in the witness box and make that expression of contrition and remorse under oath in the witness box,
yes,
if I may.
Yes, Mr.
Would you go in the witness box?
Courtney.
And I appreciate that would carry more weight than coming from me, Your Honour. What do you wish to say to His Honour, to the court and the community as to how you feel about your commission of the offence, and what assurances, if any, can you give for the future?
Well, I'd like to say I'm sorry to you, the community, and my parents and my family. It's ruined my life, and it's also upset my family a lot and put us all through a lot of things just for one silly thing that I did that day. I wish I'd never done it. It's just something I just can't believe that this has all happened and what I've done to everyone. And I can honestly tell you that I would never do anything wrong at all to ever go back to jail ever again. That was the most horrific thing that's ever happened in my whole life. Just the loss of my fiance, my son, my house, my job, everything. I lost everything that day, and I'm still paying for that mistake that I made that day right now.
How do you feel about the possibility of going back to prison?
It scares the hell out of me.
All right. A few brief questions, Mr. Courtney. There was nothing to prevent you from admitting that offence through your lawyers.
To be honest, I didn't know that I could have sat here, like Your Honour said before, that I could have sat here and said, okay, I did have that pistol, but none of the other stuff happened.
But you denied in the former trial, in front of the jury, even having the pistol.
I did.
So why do you say you're now sorry about it?
I am sorry about it.
You've been legally aided at all times?
That's right.
And there was nothing to stop you telling your lawyers, look, I did one thing, but I didn't do the other. You could have done that.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Any re-examination? Thank you, Mr. Courtney. Sit down. Seems to me, given the seriousness of the offence, remember it's an offence with a maximum penalty of 14 years imprisonment. It has a standard non-parole period of 3 years, which of course isn't directly applicable to this case because this is a plea of guilty, this isn't a sentence after trial.
Yes.
But I have to say the view that I presently have is that nothing other than a full-time custodial sentence can be imposed. The question is, has he served enough time? And I have to give careful consideration to the issue that he's now been at liberty, having been granted bail for since November of last year.
Your Honour, could I just say this?
I mean, this is a very serious offence.
I appreciate that, Your Honour.
It does involve a loaded firearm.
Judge Marion will bring down the sentence in 3 weeks. Thousands of violent incidents are dealt with in Australian courts each year. Now, after 2 trials, Jason Courtney is about to face society's penalty for breaking the law.
I'm pretty sure that he's going to let him walk out today. Pretty sure, pretty confident.
Also returning to court is Paul Magyar. It's been 2 years since he says Jason Courtney put a pistol to his head and threatened to kill him.
He had the gun at my head.
Going up on that stand is the worst thing I've ever done in my whole life. And to relive the situation 2 times in a row, it's not the best feeling.
Paul and his wife Christine have come today to see if justice is done.
It might be a drop in the ocean to him, but the waves do keep going on, and his small action that he did has affected us, me, Christine, and the family, a lot.
You know, the whole incident that happened at the pub, that happened, but that's not the bad thing now. That's not the things that we're dealing with now. He can only really handle things that he is really in control of. Even a simple thing like playing rugby, which he, you know, obviously being a New Zealander, it's part of their life. You know, just little things like that, that now he's got to learn to feel safe and never thinking it again.
Silence, all stand.
Yes, thank you.
Judge Marion delivers the sentence.
The primary purpose of the criminal law is to protect the community. The courts must impose stern punishment for firearm offences to deter those in the community who may be minded to possess or traffic in illegal firearms. The consideration of general deterrence must therefore be given particular weight when sentencing for such offences. The offence committed by the offender is made more objectively serious by reason of the fact that it was committed without regard for public safety, in that the pistol which the offender was carrying, whilst he was in a highly intoxicated state, was loaded. No explanation was offered by him as to why it was that he was carrying a loaded semi-automatic pistol in a crowded hotel. That is a troubling aspect of this case. In the end, I have come to the view that I must impose a custodial sentence which will require the offender to serve further time in custody. As I've said, the offender has served 10 months and 1 day in custody. Accordingly, I propose to backdate the sentence to commence on a day 10 months and 1 day before today. Would you stand up, please, Mr. Courtney? In relation to the charge of possess a prohibited pistol without being authorised by licence or permit to do so, I convict you of that offence. I sentence you to imprisonment. I impose a non-parole period of 1 year and 3 months. I impose a total sentence of 2 years and 6 months imprisonment, commencing on the 13th of September 2007 and expiring on the 12th of March 2010. In accordance with those orders, I direct that you be released to parole on the 12th of December 2008. Just take a seat, please.
So effectively, he's got about 5 months to serve.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honour.
Yes, I thank counsel for their assistance in the matter, and I'll adjourn.
It's just a joke.
Oh, I guess that's probably what we expected. Probably a little bit less, but what can you do?
This is nothing compared to sort of like the trauma that he's put me through. They said to us a number of times it is a game. And like, to them it's a game, to us it's personal. It has affected our lives and they don't realise that. I know they understand they come to work, do their job, and they deal with it every way they can, but they are dealing with real people. We're not actors. I mean, we're Joe Blow out there trying to earn a quid and trying to get on in the world. I'm glad that I did follow it through. I mean, it's shown a lot of character in myself and the family to
sort of like stick together, and yeah, I'm just glad it's over, but I've still got a long way to go.